Welcome back to the channel. My name's Big John. Today we're going to start discussing the application of using the rifle or carbine in social situations. So to me, this is where it gets fun because I like rifles. I don't make any bones about it. So we're going to discuss a little history to start with. Colonel Jeff Cooper, which you've heard me mention him before, called the rifle the queen of the battlefield. And I agree with him 100%. A good rifleman that knows his weapon system can do some amazing things. So the issue is most of us use carbines now instead of full-size rifles. In the mid-1940s, during the Second World War, the Germans were looking at a way to increase their firepower for their infantry squads. And so they came up with the idea of an intermittent cartridge, or an intermediate cartridge, and a carbine. Now, originally, a carbine shot a full-size rifle cartridge. It was just a shorter platform. It had a shorter barrel. Typically, it was used for cavalry. That needed a little more compactness, where this full-size was used for infantry. Well, the Germans got to looking at it, and in the First World War, they used the Mauser 98. The Russians used the Mosin Nagant. The British used the Enfield, and the United States used the Model 17 and 1903 Winchester. And they were full-size rifle cartridges. They were 30-06, 8mm Mauser, 303 British, and 7.62 by 54 round Russian. And they were effective to point aim 800 meters. And they would have indirect sights before mortars became more commonplace, where they could do the volley fire like 2,500 meters, where you actually were lobbing around, even over a hill. You couldn't actually even see the target. And a bunch of men would fire at one time. Well, the Germans realized that, hey, we're not shooting past 300 meters. So why do we need a rifle that shoots 800 meters? So Hitler was not too fired up about the idea of a new weapon system. So they kind of went behind his back, hid it, and they called it the machine pistol. And once they developed it, Hitler looked at it and just fell in love with it, and he named it the Sturmgewehr 44. Sturmgewehr being German for the assault rifle. This is not an assault rifle. An assault rifle is capable of select fire or fully automatic fire. And that changed the entire landscape. The Russians came out with the AK-47. Of course, we were a little later, but we came up with the M16 platform. Germans had the Heckler and Koch. The French had the FAMAS, and so there was an intermediate cartridge. It was effective to roughly 300 to 400 meters, but you weren't looking at aimed fire at 800 meters. So you were able to carry more ammunition for the same weight. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So, one of the things we're going to discuss is sideline and side picture. Now, you'll have to excuse my artistic ability or lack thereof. I really should have got Virginia to do this, since she is much more artistic than I am. But just pretend for a second, this is a barrel. End of the barrel, this is your front sight. The dash line is your line of sight. It is a straight line from here to infinity or where you can't see it. The curved line is the trajectory of the bullet as it leaves the barrel. And of course I drew it wrong because I've got it starting down here that's actually below the barrel, but you guys have to forgive me. The issue is twofold. First off, your cartridge, and I don't see anything on the drop. I don't want to break Melinda's chalk. This is just some dummy rounds, a 5.56. And when you drop it, when it hits the ground, if you fired a round, it would hit the ground at the exact same time. Now, it might be 400 meters that way, but in other words, it does not develop lift. Gravity takes over immediately. So, if we had our barrel completely flat, horizontal to the ground, instead of having an arc trajectory, it would come out and immediately start dropping. Now, the issue is we lose a lot of effectiveness in our range. So what we're wanting to do is we want to tilt the muzzle slightly up, but in doing so, we're actually going to cross our line of sight in two places. Now for a 5.56 or a 223, your AR platform, and we're going to keep this pretty much AR specific because for the most part it applies to any platform. But it'll cross your line of sight roughly 25 meters, give or take a little bit. It depends on where you zero. And it'll cross it again roughly at 300. Now ideally what you would want to be is 5 inches high or 5 inches low. That would give you a 10-inch, which would be your upper thoracic cavity. And this would be called maximum point blank range, where you don't have to mess with the sights. You don't have to adjust anything. That from the muzzle to 300 meters, you're good to go. Now, what I recommend is a zero of 36 yards. So we would zero at 36. We're going to be 2.5 inches high or low for a maximum of 5 inches from the muzzle to 300 yards. Now the AK 7.62 by 39 shoots a bullet that's approximately twice the weight of the 5.56, and it has a lower velocity. So if you zero again at 36 yards instead of 300, you're good to 250 yards. Okay, now what does this mean to us? The main thing we have to be careful is sight over bore. Okay, when you're looking at your AR platform, whether you're running iron sights, a red dot, a low power variable optic, whatever you're running, your bore is here. Your sights are up here. So you're roughly a couple, 2.5 inches, somewhere thereabouts. Now, if I'm using this for cover, if you look right here, my sights clear to this. My muzzle does not. If I touch the round off right here, my sights will clear, but my round would impact right here. So what that means is two things. Inside of 25 yards, if you're going to take a headshot, you don't aim right here. You aim at the top of his head because you have that offset that you have to allow for. Now after 25 yards, it doesn't matter anymore. The other thing you have to be concerned about is if you are in a field position, you may be firing and you're popping your rounds, but what you're not seeing is there's a hump of dirt. Like if you're firing prone, there's a hump of dirt 10 yards in front of you, and you're putting every round in that hump of dirt, and nothing is going down range. So always be cognizant of your height over bore, okay? Now, when we look at it, and we're going to look at iron sights to start with, and again, you'll have to excuse my artistic ability. This is an aperture rear sight, so it's just a circle. This is your front sight. Now this will be 1903 A3 Springfield, M1 Garin, M14, M16/AR. The H&K uses a variation of it, but Hamas uses it. The wonderful thing about this is, you remember how we've discussed before that your eye cannot focus in two places at the same time. Well, if you look through the aperture and just ignore it focus on your front sight. Your eye will automatically center your front sight into your aperture. Then you put your front sight on your target and you're good to go. So you're still only focusing on one thing, but technically you'd only have to focus two. That would be your target and your front sight. Now the AK uses a post and notch, very similar to what most handguns are. So your rear sight is a notch that's further down the barrel, but the same principle applies. You're still focusing on your front sight. Your target's blurry, your rear sight's blurry, your front sight is in focus. And that, again, just like your pistol, that's where your world revolves around, is your front sight. Now, a beautiful thing for the AR platform, the M1, the M14. Remember we were talking about 36 to 300 meters? Okay. The typical average male is 18 inches shoulder to shoulder. Your front sight at 300 yards covers 18 inches shoulder to shoulder. So if your target is an average sized man and he is wider than your front sight or the width of your front sight, he is 300 meters or closer. You don't have to do anything. You put it on him and you bust him. And that makes life so much simpler. So that's what we're looking at. So we look at our natural point, our point blank range. So we want to zero it to be the most effective where we adjust the least amount. And then our sight picture. Now, if you'll notice on this one, I run a red dot. When you are shooting and you're running anything, irons, red dot, low power variable, it doesn't matter. Consistency is the key to accuracy. You put your head the same place every time. Your hands, as much as possible, go the same place every time. Because if you can build consistency, your accuracy will come, okay? So, how are we on time?
12.
12. Okay, so we're gonna pause it right here, and then we're gonna come back, and we're gonna start sling and length of pull and that sort of thing.